Most people's life stories are lost forever, but yours doesn't have to be. Good evening. Tonight I'm pleased to have for our life stories Ed and Joan Matusas.
Right.
I hope I pronounced
You
your
did.
name correct. They represent a great organization called Compassionate Friends of Metro West. And they're here to talk about a special event that's coming up in December the 10th
Yes.
for the candle lighting. But first, let's get some background about the two of you. Have you both lived in, are you from Milford originally, or?
No.
Oh, okay, tell me a little bit about your background.
Joan is from Charlestown. I'm from Cambridge.
Oh,
And we met at Polaroid, where I work, where we both worked.
Both work, yep.
Yeah. And we got married, started raising children, and came out to Milford because we didn't like the city life at the time.
and Milford was good.
Was good. Had a lot-
Milford had a great school system.
Yes, yeah.
And
Yeah.
still does.
Yeah.
But it had, I know, it had great math. It was supposed to be known for math and its music department and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So that's,
So we've been out here, what, almost 50?
49 years.
49 years. Yeah.
oh, great.
So,
So tell me a little bit, how did you get involved with Compassionate Friends of Metro West?
well, Compassionate Friends is an organization that helps bereaved parents. And aside from parents, siblings, and grandparents. So those are the three groups that they kind of want to help. We got involved with Compassionate Friends when our son Scott passed away back in 1994. He died of liver failure.
What was his, did he
He
have
was-
cancer or die?
No, he had a lot of complications. And he was 31 years old.
Oh,
And he left 4 brothers. So we had 5 boys in the family.
oh, really?
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
And
for
where was
Joan.
he in the birth order?
He was
5
second.
boys.
Second one.
He was
Second.
second, yes.
And was he married when he
No,
died, or he
no,
was single?
He was single. He was living on his own in Milford. So when he passed, of course, it's a terrible, terrible thing. And we got some mail from an organization called Compassionate Friends, and at the time I wasn't ready to share my grief with anyone, and they wanted us to come to a meeting in Shrewsbury, and I just said no, I'm not going to. And it was at someone's home, so I wasn't going to share my grief with people I don't know, and I wasn't ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just threw the invitation in a bucket and forgot about it. And then a few months later, a friend of Joan's lost a daughter in an automobile accident. And I don't know, would they met in shopping or something, but
Her sister-in-law lived down the street,
Okay, yeah.
and she had told us, so she called us, and
she said, you
we
should
wound
go.
up going.
She said, you should go to this meeting because they're really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I still didn't want to go. But Joan wanted to go, so I said, well, I'll go and I'll support you.
Oh, great.
And I went, and I didn't say a word, because I didn't, like I said, I wasn't going to share my grief with people I didn't know. But I went the first time, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't good for me, but it wasn't bad.
Was it in someone's home? or-
No, it was in Holliston.
In Hollis.
Yeah, at St. Mary's Church in Holliston.
Uh-huh.
And so they invited us to come back the following month, which we did. And I still sat there and just listened and didn't say nothing. And the third time we went, I started talking. And I said, why am I talking? I'm not interested. I don't, and I found I was very comfortable with the people. The people made me comfortable. And we've been going ever since. And as time progressed, we got involved more. I got involved kind of rapidly because the chapter leader had too much on his plate and he needed someone to do a newsletter.
Oh, yes. I have
And,
a sample of your
Yeah.
newsletter here. It's lovely.
well,
Really?
he asked for a volunteer to do the newsletter. And I was computer literate at the time. I knew what a computer was and how it worked. And I said, I'll give it a try. And I've been doing that for almost 23 years now. And I love it. I love it because I found that's how I was able to get through my grief, was number one, helping other people, because I remember one of the important things that the first conference we went to, and I went in to find out about, they had a workshop on newsletters, and I remember the presenter was saying that the newsletter was the second most important thing to a bereaved parent if they couldn't get to a meeting. So I kind of took that to heart, that what I was doing was I was outreaching to people with the newsletter because they couldn't come to a meeting. And I found out that elderly people, if they lost an adult child, they still grieve the same way we grieve. So the newsletter was very important to me to do something like that. And I've been doing, like I say, I've been doing the newsletter since then. Find it very easy to do a newsletter now because I know the ins and the outs and the program and what to do. And
Now, in the newsletter, does it have stories? Do each month you have a different story of someone?
In the national office, they have a web page for they call it the chapter leaders, and they have a database for chapter newsletter editors, where all these stories are stored, and you can go into and pick them out and just copy them off and then paste them on your newsletter.
Oh,
There's nothing, everything that's in the database at the national office is all copyrighted, but we all have permission to use it. We don't have to chase authors for it.
oh, that's great. Yeah,
So that works out good.
yeah, because I read excerpts
Yeah.
of one of the stories. I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, the hardest part is for me is try not to repeat a story. So I have a master list of everything that I put in, and I check it off, and I put a date when it was in the newsletter. And believe it or not, after all this time, I'm still finding stories that I haven't repeated.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Now, how often does your newsletter come
Comes out
out?
every
and
2 months.
Every 2 months?
Every 2 months. Yeah.
And how with someone who has lost a child recently or doesn't know, how would they get in touch with you to get this, or how would they
Well,
receive
what I
this?
do is every morning after breakfast, I go to the computer and I go to the obits, and I go and look for parents that have lost children. If I find a parent that's lost a child, and it could be an adult child, I just make a copy of the obit and I file it. And then after a couple of weeks, after the funeral, I'll pull it out and send them a card introducing them to Compassionate Friends. And that card is just, it gives all the information that it's, where we meet, the times that we meet, and our telephone numbers, and our email addresses, and what else is there? We have a chapter web page. So all that is in here. So if they get the card and they're interested, there's all kinds of ways they can contact me, by telephone, by email, or they can go to our web page. And the following week, I send out a special newsletter that it's a special newsletter that I put together for people that are newly bereaved. And the letter is all the stories that I could find about how to take care of yourself. Because it's very important that when you lose a child in the beginning, you have trouble even getting out of bed. And this newsletter, and I tell people, please read this first, because it's really how to take care of yourself. And then I continually send a newsletter every issue until it's probably I send out 4 newsletters. So that's 8 months that I send out newsletters. And if I don't hear from them, I have to watch the cost of.
Right, yeah.
So I send a little note in the last newsletter saying, "This is your last newsletter unless you find solace in reading it. And if you do, just send me an email, call me on the phone, whatever, and let me know that you want the newsletter. And I'll continue sending it." And it's hard to put a figure on how many people send, but I have enough that people say, "Oh, please keep sending it. I love your letter. I love your newsletter." So that's what I do. I continue to send it out.
There's ones that we don't find, but they can find us because they'll call the national office and they'll tell them where the nearest meeting is to where you live.
And they get
And then
they call us.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted us to go over was where your meetings are and when they are, so that people can know. And then we'll finish again, tell it at the end
we
of
meet
this
we meet
interview.
in Holliston
Uh-huh,
at St. Mary's Church on the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 7:30.
uh-huh.
And the meetings run until about 9. And then we have a little social hour, a social half hour. We try to keep it to a half hour. Someone will volunteer to bring in some pastries or drinks or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And just so that people can just get over it. Because our meetings are not really structured, but they are. We ask people just to speak, don't speak over everyone else.
Right.
But sometimes one of the people hears something that clicks for them, and they like to go to follow up on it with another parent. So this is an opportunity for them to do that. We have, at our Holliston meeting, we have 4 facilitators that we use. We rotate them, and they've been just fantastic. They stepped up because when our chapter leader said, I can't do it anymore, who will step up and do it? And I kind of raised my hand and said, well, I'll do it, but I can't do it all because I got too much on my plate now.
Right, with the newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter and the outreach that I do.
Oh, you'll have to tell me about that.
Yeah,
what is the outreach?
The outreach is that I read the newspapers every morning.
Oh, okay.
And when I find that and I outreach not just to locally here, but all of Worcester County.
Oh, really?
Worcester area, because Worcester doesn't have an outreach program. And what I do is I have a piece in the newsletter that has all the local chapters surrounding Holliston.
Oh, okay. But don't you have something here in Milford too?
Yes.
Did I read that you have a meeting in Milford?
Yeah, we have a
Right.
meeting in Milford, and that's on the last Tuesday of the month. It's at
Okay.
St. Mary's Parish Center here in Milford.
Okay.
I don't put the time in because I ask people to call me on the last month, last day
Last
of
weekend.
the last weekend of before the meeting, because before we just kind of said we're going to meet at 1 o'clock, and Joan would come and we would come together sometimes, and no one would show up, and we would wait and wait and wait, and no one would show up. So now we say if you want to have a meeting, call me the weekend before, because sometimes they'll say they're going to come, and then they get cold feet, or something comes up, and they just say I'm not going to come, but they don't tell us. So that way, if they're going to come, they'll call me that weekend, and then what I do is I send out email to all local people that have come to our meetings in the afternoon. And in the afternoon, we have the afternoon meetings. We had one this past Tuesday at St. Mary's, and we had 8 people there, which was, for me, that was great, because what I do is I send out emails to people in the area to come. We had 2 families come. There was 4 new people that came, and then we had 4 people that come all the time.
Oh, great.
So that worked out really good.
Right. Well, maybe through this too, we'll get more people involved in it.
Yeah.
The other thing we wanted to talk about too, you said that this is an international,
It's an international organization.
and about where you had your conference, or when
Yeah,
you
we
have
have
your
every-
conferences?
Every year, there's a conference in a different state. In Massachusetts has done it,
Twice.
well, since we've been in it, twice. And we were on one of the national conferences, and as I said, it took like 2.5 years to pull it all together, and, you know, making things with the, people would send us a picture, and I would make like a light and put the picture on it. We had a picture board, and
Oh, how nice.
yeah, our granddaughter helped us do it, and a couple of neighbors.
Uh-huh. And where did you have the conference here in
We had them in
Massachusetts?
Boston.
In Boston.
In Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they pick a different state
A different
every...
city, yeah.
Yeah. And where are they, you said you think it started in England?
It started, in the beginning, the Compassionate Friends started in England, and it was done by a naval chaplain. I think it was in Coventry, England, where a young boy got hit by a bike, and they rushed him to the hospital where he was the chaplain, and the boy passed away. And then a few days later, another boy died. I'm not sure how he died, but the chaplain, his name was
Simon Stevens.
Simon Stevens. He thought it would be a good idea to get the two families together and maybe have tea together, which they did. And they continued because they had something really in common. They had lost their sons. They had lost two sons, and that started, and it just started to grow in England, in just that one area, and word got out, and someone that happened to be in the area from the United States came back, and I think she came from Florida. She started talking about that and kind of started a chapter down in Florida, and then it got onto a talk show on television, and she talked about the Compassionate Friends, and thing just exploded. All of a sudden there was chapters, then they started to have, well, there's enough chapters that they had a national office they started, and it went from there. And our chapter in Holliston, we've been
When did it start?
1974.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's
a
quite
long time.
Wow.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I got a letter of accommodation from the national office a couple of years ago, because it was 35 years.
Something like that.
Yeah. That it was continuous service that we had
In
with
the same place.
In the same place.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
great? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lovely church. It's on
It's
Route
nice, yeah.
16 in
Yeah.
Holliston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there for things.
And the woman that started it in Holliston just passed away about a year ago.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of donations sent in to our chapter in her memory.
Oh, that's nice. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
people can do that. We need to
Oh yeah.
talk.
Well, that's how we get our funds.
So I wanted you to talk about this, the candle lighting.
Yeah, that is, we ask everyone to light a candle at 7 o'clock on the second Sunday of December every year. And as the candle is lit in our time zone at 7 o'clock, it's being relit in somebody else's time zone at the same time. So it goes around the world for 24 hours of a candle being constantly lit. And that all started because of a sibling that lost her brother. And they used to have to fight with Congress every year to get that. And finally they said we could have that day every year, and it's called Children's Memorial.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Mhm.
I see that. So
Yeah.
anyone at home who wants
Light a
to
candle.
light a
In
candle.
memory
I-
of your child, your sibling.
grandchild.
One of the reasons I was particularly interested is my aunt, my mother's sister, her son drowned in front of her at the age of 13, which I always thought if she'd have known about a group
Yeah.
like this, she needed to be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
And that's why when you talked about this, I thought I'll light a candle for
Yeah,
Mike.
in memory
Yeah.
of him. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people could do that.
Yeah,
And it's-
anybody can.
Yeah, and so now if people wanted to make donations, you said that you have a website somewhere?
It's
Is it,
TCF Metro West.
It's www.tcfmetrowest.com, and that's all lowercase, all one word.
okay.
Or they
Right,
can
so
send
that
it
way-
to us
And
directly.
is it,
Yeah.
I mean, is there
No.
some other way they could reach you personally since you?
Just return address on there.
Uh-huh,
Right
okay,
there. Turn it around,
okay,
right there.
okay.
Or it
Oh.
can be
That's-
done on the email.
And they can email you in case they?
If they're
Yep.
interested in getting information, they can email me and I'll get it. And my email address is headley@comcast.net.
HEADLY.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And the address, the people want to make a donation, they can mail it to me, the
And-
Compassionate Friends, 26 Simmons Drive, Milford, Mass. 01757-1265.
Okay, because I'm sure there are a lot of people, like I say, that, I mean, everyone has been touched by,
Yeah.
has someone, a lot of people have lost children.
Right.
And, especially, I mean, yours was probably, when you have a child for 31 years and
Yeah.
lose them, that's a real tough thing to do. But the fact that you're helping everybody else through your organization to deal with that is, I think, a very worthy cause.
Well, the way I look at it, the important thing is that for grieving, I mean, that helped me immensely. Writing a newsletter, doing this outreach, we send out, and Joan's I design anniversary cards.
Oh, really?
And I send it out to everyone whose child on their anniversary date. And Joni makes sure that it goes out the day before so that they get it on the day of their child's anniversary.
Oh,
And I designed those cards in memory of my son Scott.
oh, what a wonderful thing. And do you do that with the people that are on the mailing list?
Yes.
Or just?
No, everyone that's a member of Compassionate Friends of Metro West.
And your headquarters organization's in Chicago?
It's in
Is that
Chicago. Yep, Oak Brooks, Illinois. It's right outside Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that, any particular story you've heard that would be of interest recently?
Well, we don't really like to talk about other people's things, but
But a lot of people have become friends, and now they get together on their own and talk about their child, depending on how they passed away.
yeah. And
They
it-
connect with them.
Well, and sometimes we get people that have made it. They're in the newspapers. Whether their child died by murder, accidents.
Well,
Those parents find their way to our chapter.
I would think that would be particularly important now where there's a lot of young people that seem
Drugs.
to be dying from drugs. And-
I just just finished a newsletter this last month that I did just a special newsletter on for parents that lost children through addiction, and I let the word out to our webpage and Compassionate Friends. They have a private webpage for chapter leaders, and I said I have it. If anyone's interested, just email me, and I'll send you out a copy. And I was getting from all over the country, all over the country. And for like
wow.
3 weeks, it was like every day I was sending out 3 or 4 newsletters to different people that wanted the newsletter. So it's an epidemic. It's.
I know. It's, I've known of a few people that have had that.
Everyone
Yeah.
has known people. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had personal friends that
Right.
those children have passed away because of addiction.
Right, right. It's a terrible epidemic.
Yeah.
Well, so we only have a few more minutes. So let us go over again where the meetings are held at,
We meet in
at
Milford.
which dates and, yeah.
In Milford on the last Tuesday of the month, and I ask people to call.
Call me.
Call first.
And your
And-
phone number, do you want to give that out or
Well,
no?
it's in the newsletter.
Oh, it's in the newsletter.
It's in the newsletter,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And we also meet on the third Tuesday of the month in Holliston. The sizes are different. In Holliston, we usually have between 25, 28, sometimes 32 people.
Oh.
So it's a big group
Yeah,
of
it's
people. And we have core people that come, just like Joan and I, that come, but they come to help the newly bereaved, to talk about. We're not. What's the word I'm looking for? Clinical technicians.
Oh,
You know, we don't help. We don't have any training. All we can do is tell people what worked for us.
Yeah, we don't tell them what to do.
Yeah,
It's what got us through, we pass on.
That's, yeah, that's sorely needed because
Yeah.
I think sometimes the people who have been through an experience
That's right.
are more helpful to you than
Yeah.
people who may not have been through it but are professionally trained. But anyway, that's wonderful. So anyway, I really appreciate your interview tonight,
Well, thank
and
you.
people can look at the interview on YouTube, which will be at the end of the show.
Great.
Okay?
Excellent.
And thank you very much for coming in.